Hi, I'm Leanne from BatLadyHerbals, and welcome to my video. So a couple weeks ago, my husband and I and a friend were hiking through this wonderful little trail in Sanford, Florida, well, close to Sanford, Florida, called Osprey Trail. We ran across this tree that was just full of buzzing bees, insects, and it had the most peculiar little flowers. And though 2 weeks later the flowers are pretty well spent, I wanted to introduce you to this beautiful tree anyways. And the tree I wanted to introduce you today is Buttonbush, or the common buttonbush. The scientific name for this plant is Cephalanthus occidentalis, and it is part of the Rubiaceae family, or the madder family. Now, you can't really see any flowers because, like I said, they're all spent. But this is what's left. And in a few more weeks, there's going to be a fruit here. Now, in Florida, you can find blooms on these plants all the way through August. So hopefully, we'll be able to show you some blooms. If not, I'll post some pictures for you at the end. And you can see from the shape of this that buttonbush gets its common name from the shape of the flowers and the fruits. So this wonderful member of the Rubiaceae family that I am standing under is commonly known to be toxic, especially to pets, but it's toxic because it has bitter glucosides in it. Ooh, that's a little green spider. Hello, little spider. Not gonna mess with that leaf anymore. So, now, these bitter glucosides actually can be beneficial if used under supervision and only if you really know what you're doing. Now, this plant is a wetland indicator and it tends to grow in swamps. But some people do successfully grow it in cultivation as long as they have the right area in their yard for it. You might want to be careful with any pets or small children that might tend to munch on the leaves of this plant because this plant contains cephalanthin, which is what the scientific name comes from. Now, cephalanthin is a toxin and it affects pretty much all vertebrates. There are some ways to safely use this plant, but the cephalanthin compounds are one of the reasons that I say only use it under supervision. You don't want to accidentally poison yourself or someone else. Some of the symptoms of toxicity from this plant include convulsions, vomiting, muscular spasms, and muscular paralysis. Now, the leaves and the bark and the flowers and even parts of the root all have a long history of use in Native American traditions. Now, this plant, like I said, has a long history of use in Native American traditions, and it is useful for quite a few things. Now, one of the main ways that it's used is as a febrifuge, which means that it can help break fevers, help sweat out those fevers. So it was a traditional remedy for malaria. Now, it also has quite a few digestive uses. In addition to being used as a general digestive bitter to help improve bile production and reduce gallstones and kidney stones, you could also take the inner bark of this plant and make a syrup out of it that will help to act as a general stomachache, which means that it's going to help improve digestion in general. It's going to help reduce stomach cramps, and you could also use this syrup to help break up kidney stones so that they're easier to pass. Now, in addition to the kidney stones, you could also use this tree to help clear kidney gravel, which is the stuff that kind of accumulates to form the kidney stones. The syrup from the inner bark, as well as a syrup made from the root, traditionally has been used for coughs, as well as to help with lung complaints. A lot of Native American traditions used vomiting or purging not only as medicinal but also as a ceremonial kind of purpose. And this plant was one of the plants used for this purpose by the Meskwaki tribe. Not only did they use it to induce vomiting in cases where that was a traditional medicinal need, they used it to induce vomiting for certain spiritual practices as well. Another tribe, the Chippewa, used this plant to help stop excessive menstrual flow, as well as to help treat the pain associated with a hard flow. If you want details about that, there's more details in my blog, which will be linked down below. Now, this beautiful plant also has some very important features and uses other than medicinal, because it is an amazing pollinator plant. You can't really see a lot of pollinators around it now because the flowers have already been spent on this particular plant. But the last time we were here, this tree was just full of bees and butterflies and all kinds of insects. And you can still look around and see some of them coming every now and then. And this is one of the reasons another common name for this plant is honeybells, because it is a beautiful plant for our pollinators. Now, one of the ways to identify trees and plants in Florida that get woody is by looking at the bark. And the bark on this tree, while it's a little damp because we had some rain earlier, it is very distinctive, very interesting. I mean, not only is it covered with beautiful lichen, but it also has these beautiful crags and crevices in it. So if you can learn to identify this bark, you can learn to identify Buttonbush. So we were right. When we hiked on a little further, we did find one that still had some beautiful blooms going on. So you can see how gorgeous this flower really is. Now, this one hasn't bloomed all the way. And this one, the blooms are mostly spent on. But you can see, when it's really going off, it's just a great sight. So, thank you for joining me again. My name is Leanne from BatLadyHerbals. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, feel free to find me on Patreon and become a patron. I also have a herbal blog, which I will link down below for you, that has a little bit more information on this beautiful plant here in Florida, as well as other plants that we commonly come across in our hiking. I also have a shop on Teespring that has all kinds of designs to help promote herbalism and hiking here in Florida. Feel free to shop around on that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified about when I post new videos, hit the bell so you can have notifications. So thank you again for joining me on this wonderfully overcast day in Florida, and have a wonderful day.
It was coffee.
That's why I'm looking it up. I think I said the wrong one. No? Rubiaceae. Rubiaceae probably has a couple different common names, like coffee and madder. Now, in Latin, it's known as Cephalanthus occidentalis, and I'm probably getting that wrong. Cephalanthus? Cephalanthus does not sound right. It is right. Holy cow, I got it right.